All right, ladies and gentlemen, Democrat heads up.
You got the cash, we want to use it, so we hope you'll understand exactly why you're about to lose it when we win. Do you remember how it used to be? The money you made, thought you'd get to keep it. Ha! Spread the wealth around.
Through diplomacy, we shut down Iran's nuclear weapons program.
Wait a minute. Stop right there. That's a montage, or it should be, a montage of Obama from last night. I'm not going to play it now, but it starts with a whopper. Did you hear that?
Through diplomacy, we shut down Iran's nuclear weapons program.
No, you didn't shut down their nuclear weapons program. And no, you gave them a nuclear weapon. You facilitated it. You even gave them $150 billion to build it with. Honest to God, folks, I mean, they live in an alternate reality. All right, here's the story. Investors Business Daily. As ISIS attacks mount, Democrats target the real threat, refrigerators and the rich. As ISIS and its acolytes are busy carrying out more terrorist attacks, Democrats are busy minimizing the alarming threat that the terror group poses when they aren't ignoring it altogether. Now, in the past 12 months, ISIS launched or inspired nearly 40 terrorist attacks around the world that have claimed more than 1,600 lives. Almost a third of those deaths occurred in this month alone. Now, the latest includes the murder of a Catholic priest in Normandy, France. We talked about that yesterday and about how CNN's take on that was that the real victim was the Muslims. Yeah, here's how it works. This is Democrat logic. Here's how it works. ISIS beheads the priest, and then what happens is everybody gets mad at Muslims, and then when they get mad at Muslims, then Muslims feel disenfranchised. All right, now the flaw in that logic is that Muslims under Sharia law disenfranchise themselves. All right, so there's no impact here, but CNN's making this up as they go along. And then Muslims become disenfranchised, and then they go and join ISIS. You see that? Okay, so the beheading of the priest, the real victim wasn't the priest. The real victim was Muslims. All right, just saying. Okay, I just want you to know it's CNN's take on it. The latest includes the murder of a Catholic priest in Normandy, France, on Tuesday by two ISIS terrorists. Now, 2 days earlier, a Syrian suicide bomber who pledged allegiance to ISIS attacked a music festival in Germany, injuring 15 people. Last week, an ISIS-inspired immigrant teen stabbed passengers on a train in Bavaria. And just 12 days ago, an ISIS radical mowed down pedestrians celebrating Bastille Day in Nice, France, killing 84 and injuring 303. And this is to say nothing of the June ISIS-inspired attack at the nightclub in Orlando, Florida, that claimed 49 lives. Now, the response from the leading Democrats? Secretary of State John Kerry on Friday, and we're not making this up because I played the audio for you, equated the global war against refrigerants to the war against ISIS. Yesterday, I met in Washington with 45 nations, defense ministers, and foreign ministers as we were working together on the challenge of ISIS and terrorism, Kerry said at a conference in Vienna, where he was negotiating a deal to phase out the use of hydrofluorocarbons. That's a refrigerant used in household refrigerators and air conditioners. It's hard for some people to grasp it. Yeah, that's right, because it's all BS. It's hard for some people to grasp it. But what you are doing here right now is of equal importance because it has the ability to literally save life on the planet Earth altogether. It's a matter of human survival. And, yeah, okay. You know, I've actually been remiss in calling the man-made climate change industry a hoax. It's not a hoax. It's a con. It's a con. And you never give up the con. And as the evidence mounts that it's a con, you just don't give it up. You keep pushing. It's all about redistribution of wealth. It's all about globalism. We've given you the quotes from the very people at the top. Christine Figueres, what is she, the head of the IMF or the World Bank? Yeah, she said it's not about the environment. It's about destroying capitalism so we can do global socialism. They never give up on folks. There are some bad ideas in the world that never, ever, ever go away. And socialism, communism, fascism, whatever, top-down management of society, it never goes away. It's always around under some name. All right, once upon a time, it was emperors and kings and tribal leaders and whatever it was, but it was all top-down management. And that's the way these people do. They think they're the ones that should be in charge. Why? Because they can't do anything to make any money on their own. So what they do is they get power and then they sell it. That's what the Clintons did. That's what the foundation's all about. Anyway, back to the story. And at the Democrat convention, not one of the 61 speakers who got up on the dais on Monday even uttered the word ISIS or Islamic or terrorism or terrorist or terror. That's because the Democrat Party is in bed with the Council on American Islamic Relations. They're in bed with the Muslim Student Association. They're in bed with the Muslim American, whatever that is. Is it MAS or MSA? Yeah, Muslim, I forget it. And also, of course, the Muslim Brotherhood as well. And did I mention ISNA also? Yeah, I mean, they're controlled by these people. You know, for years I used to hear, the Jews are in control of our government. They're all rich. And these Jews are throwing their money around and and I'm thinking to myself, and I always thought to myself, wait a minute. I do know a lot of prosperous Jews because there's an ethic, a cultural ethic for success amongst Jews, and it manifests itself in that. But why is nobody talking about these oil-soaked Arabs? You mean to tell me that they are not pumping money into our government someplace to gain access, to gain influence? Well, now, of course, it's beginning to show up. You can see it in the Obama administration especially. You can see it in the associations between Tim Kaine and the Muslim community. You can see the appointments that are. I mean, we've got representatives or people with ties to the Muslim Brotherhood in every major bureaucracy in this country, and some of the most sensitive. Intelligence, military, it's frightening, and they're the ones that are crafting the entire worldview of our government vis-a-vis Islam. They're the ones who got any reference to Islam or terrorism broomed out of the FBI and the military handbooks and manuals, which is one of the reasons, by the way, that Mr. Mateen down in Orlando managed to escape because the FBI couldn't consider his Muslim radicalness as part of the decision as to whether or not to keep watching this guy. See? Anyway, and I don't know if they talked about ISIS last night. I didn't watch. They probably did because they got shamed into it. Because the first day, remember, they had no American flags on the stage? And of course, people noticed that. Whether they intended it or not is a good question. Because you have to understand, first of all, I don't even think it's at the top of mind of Democrats to even think about an American flag. But there's a faction of Democrats that views the American flag as a sign of oppression. So whether it was we forgot, or whether it was we don't want to offend our illegal immigrant audience or whoever it is out there that thinks that America is oppressive and colonialist and all that other crap, for whatever reason, there were no flags on the stage. Well, when the doo-doo hit the fan over that, they went out and got some flags. But you notice they didn't put them on the stage. They put them around the corner on each side. There was two on each side, and they were around the corner in the shadows. Yeah, okay, yeah, you want a flag? Okay, boom, boom, there's your flag. Now, instead, the delegates in Philadelphia and those watching on TV were told repeatedly that the real threats to America come from things like greed. Folks, the United States government is the very definition of greed. People, the rich 1%, the banks, all that, okay, generally rich people have earned their money. I mean, unless they're the Kennedys or somebody. Generally, rich people have earned their money. Occasionally, some of them steal it, like John Corzine, who's now off the hook. Why? Because he's a Democrat. $2 billion. He's off the hook now. It's been quietly shoved under the rug. But by and large, most people who are wealthy have earned their money. That's not greed. Effort in exchange for value and wealth is not greed. What is greed is coveting stuff that other people have earned and taking it from them. The United States government is the very definition of greed. But anyway, I digress. So, the delegates in Philadelphia were talking about greed, the top 1%, the banks, the oil companies, the giant corporations, and, of course, Donald Trump. Heck, the Supreme Court's 2010 decision on Citizens United got more mentions than ISIS on opening night. Well, that's because they're more afraid of Citizens United than they are of ISIS. They can't stand Citizens United because it gives people other than unions a voice in politics. Obama, meanwhile, complains that the real threat that we face is not from Islamic extremists, but from heated rhetoric by the Republicans. On Face the Nation, Obama said that, quote, I think the kinds of rhetoric that we've heard too often from Mr. Trump and others is ultimately helping ISIS to do its work. Really? Yeah, that's about as valid as Gitmo as a recruiting tool. By the way, yesterday I got the word that ISIS burned a family alive because they were trying to escape. They burned a family alive, and the picture that went with it was a 2-year-old child with his arms extended, immersed in flames in a cage. A 2-year-old. A 2-year-old in abject agony. These people are animals. These people are not human. They have resigned from the human race by design, and it is their ideology that helped them do it. It is poison. It is responsible for most of the agony, pain, torture, hatred, and bigotry on the planet Earth. Islam is a scourge. It is a menace. A 2-year-old child immersed in flames and burned to death by ISIS. But according to the logic of families, the best way to defeat the growing threat of ISIS terror is to pretend it doesn't exist, while focusing on more immediate threats to our way of life, like those fat cat CEOs and that evil appliance humming away in your kitchen.